All right, guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this tournament grand final. Last weekend, of course, we did have that 7-hour stream in which I made it to the grand finals and ended up in a best-of-3 series against Hadries here. So this is going to be the culmination of the tournament. It was my Empire versus his Tzeentch. Let's see how this goes. Now, as far as my build goes in the front line, it is going to be swordsmen in the front, and I like these guys. The spearmen with shields are also good, but I like the swordsmen because they have decent enough combat stats to kind of take down blues and pinks, and you don't really need the pointy sticks too much against Tzeentch. Typically, you're going to be seeing mostly infantry. Some of their large targets would include like Chaos Spawn and maybe like Doom Knights and Chaos Knights, but you don't see those terribly often. They're not super threatening against the Empire, so I figured just let's go with swordsmen. So swordsmen in the front, backed up by greatswords. You don't want to go too crazy on greatswords, but having two of them, I think in the backfield, kind of rotating, avoiding enemy missile fire, and intercepting Zangors is really, really good. And honestly, they dominate Zangors in combat, and if they can avoid Tzeentchian shooting and magic, they can do pretty well for themselves. So we got 2 units of greatswords here, a life wizard in the back. So if you have greatswords and wagons, you're going to want healing. So we're going to be casting Earthblood on the wagons, which obviously are going to be getting hit by like blue fires and different things like that, and also casting Earthblood on the old greatswords. General of the Empire on foot, Tzeentch is really good at sniping lords, and if you have a big character like, let's say, Franz or Boris, they can get kited and not really be used super effectively. They can also be sniped, so I figured let's just go for Old Faithful here and go for a humble General of the Empire on foot. And he's not bad at fighting. He can get on an objective and do his thing for 600 gold. On the other side of the trees, I do like Pistoliers actually, and I do use them as a utility piece to kind of screen Furies as well as Screamers and just kind of poke around the battlefield. So we have a Pistolier and a Grenade Launcher hiding in the bushes. So the entire game plan here is to hide the Grenade Launchers in the tree line here, wait for them to move some, infantry up on Objective 1, thinking it's free. You pop out, you give them a little bit of that Steel Faith and Gunpowder, and you live your best life. So that's pretty much it for my build. Now for Hadries, it's going to be rocking Kairos Fate Weaver, hands down the best Tzeentch Lord. Crazy, crazy good. Blue Fire and Regrowth. I mean, great kit of spells. The Empire with wagons is pretty good at sniping lords and characters like big flying monsters, so having Regrowth will certainly help there. But I'm definitely vulnerable to getting popped by the wagons. We got blues and pink horrors as well, backed up by a combination of warriors, I think, and marauders in the front. Zangor is obviously going to be the reserve call in here. So we do see the old Zangors kind of moving across the tree line here, while up in the sky, the big chicken is going to be getting wagoned. And if you don't bring wagons, the problem is Kairos is just going to fly over your army and cackle here. So he does pop the Oracle of Divinity, which gives him 44% ward save. And he's basically wasting my ammo here, but you kind of have to screen like this, because if you don't, they're just going to go harass your greatswords and just do a ton of value damage against you. Pistoliers are also really good at shooting big flying monsters. So we get the Pistoliers nearby, and they're going to be ripping some shots up at Kairos up in the sky. So wagons moving forward and still just doing their poke while Hadries moves up his pink and blue army, which isn't bad at all. The pink fire actually does some considerably decent damage when shooting against my greatswords. It doesn't have like insane AP, but it adds up, and it's a high volume of fire. So the trap is almost sprung. Over here, we do see the Zangors moving in, and Zangors are incredibly hard for Empire to deal with. Greatswords can take them on, of course, but greatswords are much slower, 40 against 28 speed, so it has to be a pretty favorable positioning engagement. But grenade launchers are your other answer. So we got the grenade launchers in the bushes and some spearmen with shields coming up to hold that objective, and hopefully our ambush will go well. Now over here we do see Kairos getting poked a little bit, but nothing that a regrowth and some fat healing can't come in. But guys, we are going to be getting a Hellblaster volley gun very soon. Get hyped, and I like this from Hadries a lot. He hides some Zangors in the trees, so if I summon in like a Sunmaker, any heavy artillery, he's going to have a threat on it. But the Hellblaster volley gun is incredible against Tzeentch. A little bit short range, so you have to move it up. It's very positionally, sensitive, but if you have wagons to protect it from flyers, you definitely can do your thing. And Pendulum going down on Swordsman here, don't really care about that, honestly. Probably not even worth the Winds of Magic. Those guys are pretty cheap. But on the side objective, it's going great for us. You can see these filthy Zangors, these OP beasts, going to be nailed down by the grenade launchers of Sigmar. So they're going to get routed back here while the State Troopers move up. Obviously, swordsmen or spearmen would get massacred by Zangors, but we have a surround. We got the Pistoliers behind them, shooting them in the back. And we do have the grenade launcher shooting him from the other side. So a big Empire ambush here on this side while we posture up and get ready to play on this objective. So you'll notice how I maneuvered both greatswords away from the pinks. The pinks are pretty devastating there. Kairos up in the sky, still flying about, looking for firepower wherever he can. I believe Oracle of Eternity was popped once again, so that is his ward save item. And now we get some Screamers coming in. So the Pistolier is going to be fleeing the scene. Grenade Launcher is going to be running while we do control objective number 1 now. So that was pretty big. Silver Bullets are our call-in, and the Hellblaster Volley Gun is going to be ripping some huge shots downtown in just a second. So here it goes. I got to get some of these in tabletop. They're so cool. But the Hellblaster Volley Guns will be shooting into the pinks. Chromatic Abomination is going to be the first target. So here it comes, and we will see what kind of damage we get done here. So the Greatsword's going to be running away, of course, from that firepower. Here we do drop a little bit of Steel Faith and Gunpowder, Awakening the Wood going down, not a bad anti-infantry spell. And the Hellblaster Volley Gun is now teeing off into this relatively expensive unit. But the colors of the rainbow are now unleashed on us. We do see the pinks and blues shooting away into my troopers, but they're shielded state troopers, so not a huge deal. Screamer still chasing on the other side. So Screamer's going to be looping about and heading after my old Outriders with grenade launchers, which is certainly not a bad idea. So in response to this, I got to get the wagons across to start shooting these things down. Silver Bullet's also going to form ranks and go after the Screamers, but they need to go down. They are very annoying in the backfield. But frontline here, obviously going to get melted, so those swordsmen going to pay the troll toll. But these Greatswords here having a okay time. They've gotten into the heat of combat, fighting against Zangors, which is exactly what they want to be doing, and they're taking a little bit of fire, but it's nothing too bad. But that Gaze of Fate lowers their melee attack by 40. Pretty crazy little debuff there. On the far side, Forsaken on their way in. Thankfully, I did preemptively park some Greatswords in the trees. I pulled them out of reserve, and they're going to be moving up to engage those Forsaken. While in the backfield, Screamers do dive my Silver Bullets, but the Wagon's able to focus fire them down, so they probably will pay the troll toll here. Empire Knights being called out of reserve. There was some backfield pressure. Those ambushing Zangors came after the Hellblaster Volley Gun, which has actually already killed these Chromatic Abominations just about. They're probably going to crumble here in a second or disintegrate because they've been taking lethal damage. That's huge value. So far, this thing's already gotten about 600. And has really made the Demons of Tzeentch pay the troll toll. Pistoliers still being nice. I like one or two Pistoliers. They've kind of been overshadowed by wagons, but they serve a bit of a different purpose. Like they're obviously much faster. They can give you fast capture weight like cavalry if you need to, and they can also effectively snipe like lightly armored targets, whether it be Furies or like an Exalted Lord of Change. They do very well, and Forsaken get absolutely crushed by Greatswords. They have really low melee defense and poor AP. So the Great Swords of Sigmar able to come in with their badass floppy hats and show these filthy demons who is boss, or heretics, I should suppose. I don't know, mutants, whatever it is. So more grenade launchers coming up here, guys. Wagons moving forward, chasing back old Kairos. On the other side, the swordsmen going to be reforming ranks while the Zangors do beat the Empire Knights in combat. It looks like they're going to win that fight. So it's no surprise. Empire Knights have pretty terrible combat stats. But it's just buying time for the old Hellblaster Volley Gun to now start making its way through the pinks. And if we can get rid of those, it's going to take down a ton of the stopping power here. It looks like another blue going down on Kairos on the wagons. But we've been able to heal them pretty consistently with Earthbloods and things like that, so it hasn't been too bad. And the Great Swords, again, one of my favorite units. I have a couple. I think I have 20 of them in tabletop. Same paint scheme as this, basically, the red and white. But they keep grinding through. Awakening the Wood, going to be triggering the Earthbloom passive for heals. Nice pendulum there from Hadries. It does do some considerable damage against the Greatswords, but we have a pretty massive value lead right now. A lot of the little ambushes and trades have gone very well, and we've had a fully erect Hellblaster Volley Gun shooting this entire time, which is just annihilating the range support of Tzeentch, which they certainly need to take down the Greatswords. Because if you just try and fight Greatswords up close with like chaff units, obviously they're going to do well. They've had some buffs in recent patches. Greatswords, they're like a pretty balanced unit now for sure. Like they're very vulnerable, but if used correctly, they can do good work. Like I think like Greatswords or Black Orcs, and there's a couple other elite infantry units, they need that similar treatment. Like Harganeth Executioners could probably use like 100 off. Black Orcs could use some big reworks, and then I think everybody would be happy. So looking around, Objective 3 is owned by Tzeentch, and the Hellblaster Volley Gun does get nailed by the Tzeentch Army Ultimate, but it doesn't quite kill them, so it is able to continue shooting here, which is pretty devastating. Even in its very tattered state, it still has 3 of its artillery pieces, and now making sure the Zangors don't maneuver and get on my backfield piece, we do call in the Free Company Militia, and those bad boys are going to be moving over with the pistols to go hunt down the Zangors. And they should be able to win at this point. The Zangors are pretty low health, and the Free Company Militia will, they're somewhat proficient in melee combat. Kairos is running away, chasing with Wagon, so the dreaded Wagon Legion's going to be hunting him down, and the Greatswords just pressing and holding the point, while I do call in the Deathjacks. This is kind of a tech I like against Tzeentch. They have stock, they have snipe, and they have vanguard, so you can creep them up, and if your opponent is using like blues and pinks, you can actually kill them pretty quickly with Deathjacks. So just as like a one-off, and the fact that they can sneak up on a point and steal it, they certainly bring a bit of utility to the battlefield. So Greatswords moving up to the middle point, being threatened a little bit in terms of capture weight here by the Pinks and the Marauders. The General of the Empire still holding down the point very well. Swordsmen here might be able to win against these blues. I think they will. Their stats are just way better in combat. You can see 32 and 32 against low 20s for these guys. The Demons, I believe, do have the numerical advantage, but considering the Swordsmen are close enough, I think they should be able to get the dub there. Free Company Militia taking care of the Zangors, now going to be moving up to press objective number 3. Meanwhile, the Swordsmen continue fighting in the middle, so we got Swordsmen and Greatswords cutting through those units, and the Wagons have basically chased Kairos off into the Shadow Realm here. All the Deathjacks just keep putting hurt into the blues, so those bad boys are ripping shots. There they go, looking mighty cool. I mean, how can you guys not? The Empire's just the coolest faction. Look at these guys. Just getting that sweet DACA in there. Greatsword's very slow. Demons, unfortunately, can kite them well, and Hadri's does have good micro, so he's going to be able to pull back and avoid a lot of that. Kairos has got to be careful, though. If he comes in, gets a little bit too close to the wagons, could pay the troll toll. Empire Knights being called out on pretty much every front, intercepting these beat-up Zangors here, and it looks like we're going to start getting momentum on this point as the Swordsmen and Free Company Militia, they continue their combined effort of moving forward. Now the Sigmarites shouting a little bit of action here in the air as they move forward towards the point. Tattered Empire Knight's going to shut down the shooting. And the General of the Empire, he's been doing okay, a little bit of value. He's alive, which is the important thing, And the Tzeentch matchup, you really got to worry about, your Lord getting karate chopped here. So subjective looking to be pretty well under our control. Gaze of Fate going down, snaring them in place, allowing the Pinks to shoot at some of these poor greatswords here. But they've got about 700 value. They took down some Forsaken. They secured the point. And they give the Empire some decent fighting power in the front line. Granted, you don't want to use greatswords like right in the front line. You want to use them as like a reserve piece, in my experience, of trying to make them work in a whole bunch of matchups here. So, side point, looking okay. We do manage to flip that one, so this objective's going to go to us, and that is going to be a triple cap at this point. We have a massive value lead. I mean, yes, there is healing on the Tzeentch roster. Kairos has, cast several regrowths on himself, so, maybe you could, add, 2,000 to the value, considering the amount of healing he's done on himself. But even still, we've also been healing with our regrowths and our life bloom and all that sort of good stuff, so that was probably enough to give us the edge that we're looking for here. So, Deathjacks shooting away, and more Empire Knights, heavy cavalry, and grenade launchers going to be called out from reserve, and that's basically going to be it. Tzeentch is going to try and muster some reinforcements where they can, but the Empire Knights are just going to ride them down. We have such a huge advantage here with the wagons and grenade launchers all over the field, and that is going to be it. As this Hellblaster volley gun has still been shooting all game, just mowing down these demons. Here in the middle, Pistoliers moving up to provide cap weight, but that is it. GG, well played. So that was, we played a best of 3 grand final in that 7-hour tournament the day after. This was game 1. Game 2 was my Lizardmen versus his Beastmen, and I was able to win that with the Lizardmen. So I ended up winning the series 2-0. But unfortunately, during the Lizardmen Beastmen replay, the game crashed. I crashed in the last 5 seconds of the game, so we didn't get the replay. So yeah, that was pretty much it. But yeah, the Empire holding their own against these meta factions is cool. Tzeentch is obviously a super top tier meta pick. Hadri's, of course, and I were talking after the game. He did mention that he kind of forgot about Aecold and how good he could be here. Admittedly, that would have made the matchup quite a bit harder. Don't know if it would have changed the outcome per se, based on how the trades went, but Aecold would have been a really nice addition. So yeah, and then Kairos is really good. I almost wonder if the other bird isn't bad either. So you can summon the portal glyph to get those diving birds and furies and things like that. The Hellblaster volley gun is really, I think, the big staple that kind of did well for me there. It took down a lot of the Tzeentchian shooting. But also the ambushes on these side points were pretty good too. But anyways, GG, well played to my opponent here. It was a fun series. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Steel Faith and Gunpowder all day, baby. And Sigmar bless his ravaged body. See you guys later.